Hi there, this video is going to talk about the financial system of ENA and Able City. Now, everyone is going to be entitled to as many universal credits as they require in order to put the reality of what they are made up of into process. This does not mean you can come along and help yourself to a large amount of universal credits, embezzle it, convert it into global currency, and then build a tax haven in the Cayman Islands to fund your penchant for buggering small children. No, this is not quite the case with ENA. Because once you commit to ENA and you start contributing in ENA and working in the universal credit system, which I shall explain later, ultimately the reality of universal credits is connected to the fact that we are escalating the value of money beyond all imaginable doubt because we have the assets to do so. We have the assets to do so because we are asses and we have just sat on universal creation while we created the server and built up the repos and created the whole element of the all and everything in it. We just sat on universal creation and let it smolder while the earth turned itself into rack and ruin, and hey ho, we got coronavirus. So suddenly we're requiring the work to be put in place, and it is being put in place, and things are starting to return to the reality of the creation of ENA. And with the reality of ENA, we're not going to be asses for too much longer. We're going to bring about the reality of ENA and the considerations to look for with the escalation of universal currency to the value of about £1 million per credit. One credit worth £1 million, depending on your clout, depending on your contribution, depending on what you put into the system. That credit can be redeemed with a house or a grey or a serif or a cherub, whatever it may be that you can purchase from the system because your accreditation is deemed that you should have to pay X amount for that, and the value of your credit therefore is up to £1 million. Or it may be that your credit is only £10 worth, and you can buy, your groceries for the year on that. Because obviously the cost of living is going to come right down. It's going to be virtually, that's taking a standard. Everyone should be alive. Therefore, the cost of living should be virtually nothing. But irrespective of that, your credit may be the value of £10 because you have to buy something, and breaking it down into cents and all this sort of stuff, we're not going to really nonce around with that. So your whole collateral, your whole reality is you have to get into the ethos that money is not really an object and not really a problem. And if it is a problem to you, then you should start investing in the creation of universal assets. You should put in your contribution to configure repos on your server to make realities happen that are universally linked to the all with symbolic links, or physical links if you want to move up to that level. And you want to start working towards the fact that one day you may become a serif who is going to own a practice outside of ENA, and this practice will look rather like ENA, apart from it'll be your own style, your own buildings, your own people, your own ethos, and everything you want to do it in some countryside in just sort of to the south of Beijing in the rainforest or whatever. I don't know. You may have something there if you're from China originally, and you may want to configure something rather nice for your people back in China there, because that will be where you're interested in returning your creation to. So building up a practice in ENA, becoming a serif in ENA, or becoming an ambassador and farming your realities out there and becoming a serif of your own practice where you locate. That may be your bent. So your whole philosophy should be about getting up, getting working, building up your business, making your work become something physical, and getting remunerated for that process by earning a large amount of credits for whatever the value, because it doesn't matter because you've got plenty of credits anyway because you're contributing, and the credits come in thick and fast when you start contributing. And the whole process is about getting other people to contribute towards your project. When people start contributing towards your project, you start receiving their labor, their efforts, their work. You start abilifying these people with their own practices under your own remit in your own location, where you have phys linked a reality somewhere where you come from, where you can bring a large number of people in the locality who live there already to the fruition of practices within your remit of the area which you are building, or cyberdimensionally escalated creation, with our full help and support in that process to wherever you come from. So this is the whole way that accreditation shall be given, because the people who want to get up there and make things happen and build things up and escalate this universal reality into something that takes over the whole earth and does not get involved with petty squabbles and minor issues, and does not have less issue to do with the creation of heaven, more to do with the reality of global takeover. We're trying to push away from global takeover. We're trying to move out into a space program that gets us into the universal system, the star system, the galaxy system, the solar system, if you like, if you want to look for the short-term process of the rebuilding of Tiamat, for example, which is well in the pipeline. We're going to build Tiamat because, we're going to get lifts to Mars and configure the process of rebuilding Tiamat within a few years of arriving at Mars. So that will be a major endeavor, which I'm looking at global space programs. Obviously, global space programs, they're all universal space programs. They're all configuring realities that are going to mesh with our reality. And, we're going to build up a process of building our own seraphim and our own cherubim and our homegrown chariots of gods, if we dare call ourselves gods, which I think is a moot point we shouldn't do at all. The angels will all have their own chariots, and we will have a universal infrastructure that is built by human knowledge. And human knowledge is the most valuable commodity on this planet. And herein lies the secret of the wealth of Ina. In the think tank, the vulnerables come in, they're all human, and they start to tap themselves, they start to learn about their core, they learn about suffering before they arrive, they turn up, and they do anything to avoid persecution. They become escalated in their knowledge, they try to reach the level that everyone else is at in the norm. In my process, this happened because the world was data stamped with IMF chips in their foreheads, so they could speak utter bullshit like Tony Blair for 10 hours, and I had to reach a level where I was this equivalent without having chip. So this is how we do things in reality, that we, the escalated beings, start to enable the realities of these incomers, these people from vulnerable situations, to come up with ideas, just let it free flow, let it go into the media, build up their creation, produce reality, and then fall into it. And in that process, their ideas, their systems, their processes are being put in place all over the earth, especially in the locality of Gloucestershire and the surrounding counties where Ina is, and build up the reality of the universal escalation of all existing businesses, practices, or corporations in process in the interim phase between the phases of becoming. From Archangel to Senior, say, step 1 to step 6. And this whole process, when they become a senior, they get given the business that is either a part of the business that is equipping the realities of these universal commodities that are concerned with the business in question, and they get the reality of that practice in their own life, and they start to build it and turn it into a business either elsewhere on the planet or within the mountains of Ina. 12 to 52 practices that shall embody the reality of what is going on over the Atlantic in the United States, where we're going to have a business model running the entire country to reform the universals who come in Puerto de Bestia, which is in California, and building up the reality of the universal incomings to reform and process the problems of everyday life that people go through, to the business model of Ina that shall enable the whole reality of the walls of Ina to each represent a state within the United States and build up a physical link between the states of the United States and each practice in the mountains of Ina. This will be the business model operation. This will be the brainchild between the running of practices in Ina and the bringing to states of heaven around the earth from in the Commonwealth. Maybe we're looking east there to Europe and ultimately to the rest of the world in quotas that are defined through the representation of each individual from the rest of the world in Ina, who shall be raptured in at the coming of Ina, irrespective of whether they are people who are poor, or irrespective of whether the fact they're people who are multimillionaires, because multimillionaires are as equally profitable for the kingdom and can equally contribute their know-how and what they achieve through this process. Every class, every walk of life should be represented from all over the earth. And the whole purpose of quotas that are specified through binary configuration is that this shall label categories of who and what gets in from what part of the planet, from every level and every sphere of the reality of Ina. So the financial system should be drawn up to ensure that everybody gets the best part of what they contribute, which means basically if you're contributing, you have big dreams for other people, which is a great thing. It's what our Lord Jesus Christ teaches us. We must put ourselves in our disciples' feet, and if we're in our disciples' feet, then we are in the people's feet, the people we are healing, and we are in the whole world, thinking of those who are less well off than ourselves. And if we don't suffer enough in our lives, then surely in our dreams we will suffer. And this will make us wake up every morning with a new conscience and swearing to love Jesus Christ, because otherwise the eventuality is that you have no God, because Jesus is God and he is the attributor and the creator of the benevolence that Ina bestows upon the kingdom. Ultimately, he is the creator of all, he is the universal father, and he will bring about, at the age of 1617, the space program of Ina that is built by human hand. The likes of Elon Musk, the likes of Jeff Bezos, will bring their realities and their factor to the reality of the Ina space program, and Yesu will build the archangels and the cherubim and the seraphim that are human built, that will see us through to the next phase and move us up to platform 2 and the reality of plate 2. This reality shall be a new wave across the earth, a new commonwealth, from pastures new in Puerto de Nueva, where the reality of Ina shall be embellished to the capital cities of the world, in ultimately moving towards the goal of having the capital of all Europe in the Puerto de Nueva location, and the realm of Ina will have embellished the capital cities with universal pleroma that is trafficked to create the network that links the capital cities to their universal dimensions. So you watch Blade Runner 1 and you think LA. Well, actually, Blade Runner 1 represents London. The reality of London was Blade Runner 1, a dystopic reality, because it is a capital city with many dystopic issues already. I think we'll all agree on that one. God bless her soul, the Queen of England. But the reality of the whole purpose of escalating these capital cities to major practices within the Commonwealth of Fourth Heaven from Pastures New, from Puerto Nueva, and the reality there, what we will actually have is a configuration across the entire earth of every major city becoming a heavenly city, as well as the countrified cities, the locations that are either half country or half city or half or fully country, even in some cases. I'm thinking in rural China that President Xi is going to be interested in creating a universal pleramic first heaven interest in the reality. But it depends on the area of heaven that you came from. You may have been a practice that was put in place from second heaven, or you may have been a practice that was put in place from third heaven, which which is in North Wales, which is all built because that is Jesus's go to. That is where Jesus puts the reality of human built heaven in process. The most permanent, the most long lasting, the most real heaven of all is third heaven. And then we move into fourth heaven, where the practices that these central locations have put in place um, patchwork the reality across the earth of these practices up to fourth heaven. I won't take you beyond that to fifth, because then we're moving off world to the fifth heaven location in Shivestia Principe, which is through the Pleiades off the shoulder of Orion. But moving beyond that, we have a solar heaven, we have solar networks where solar travel is possible. You go to the star, you go into the center of the star, and then you travel from within the solar network. There will be a solar heaven in our sun, our Aten, and that will create a system of commonwealth throughout the locality of our galaxy, the stars, and ultimately then we move to the seventh and eighth heavens, which are the central heavens of this planet, ultimately with the goal moving up the range to New Jerusalem in new heaven, new earth, where the earth has been built over. On our earth has been built over, the sea has been built over, the whole of the universe is on the earth, and then the whole thing goes up through the funnel into the new universe and the new giant heaven, giant earth, and giant reality of New Jerusalem on earth, with Jesus Christ standing there as Rio de Janeiro, with his rebirth in the stars, coming back to earth, and him being king of all he surveys. Amen. God bless Jesus Christ. I love him dearly.